Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Bricks King podcast, where I'm going to bend your ear about Lego, review those amazing bricks of plastic, and discuss what is new and up and coming around the Lego world. I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it. Welcome in, everybody. How are we doing today? What a lovely day. I'm finally healthy. Last time we spoke, I was just getting over a cold, I believe is what it was. And then my wife managed to catch like the flu, or I don't know. That woman is never sick. So it was kind of one of those things like, are you dying? Because you're never sick. So it was just like, she's never really had the flu. I'm pretty sure that's what it was, but I had only caught like a smidge of it. And it was like within like 24 hours, and I was pretty good. Probably because we can argue about this all day. Like, I have a better immune system because I catch more things, but then I'm less sick more often, or the fact that, I don't get as sick in comparison. I mean, you can call it what it is. She's, I work around sick kids all day. Well, so do I. So anyway, so we're back to a semi-normal, as normal as one can be. So hopefully you are too. I know we're still in the throngs of cold and flu and every other nastiness part of the season. Allergy season is really bad in Texas right now for some folks. I've got about a month and a half before mine really gets out of control, but hey, So we are talking today specifically about something that's a little foxy, a little bit risque. We're going down that road today. I figured today was the perfect jumping off point into a different realm as far as Lego goes. And I mean, what other way to really jump into it? Okay, so let me ask you this. Okay, I want you to keep this in the back of your head. You find yourself alone, and in the distance, you're being spotted, and it's ever so slight. You think, oh, every move I make, they're going to pick up on it. Like everything that I'm saying, they're going to hear and be like, oh man. And you don't want to move. You're fearful of moving because of the attention and attraction that may cause, good or bad. And at the same time, you are still concerned about them latching onto you. So you kind of go through this dance of this back and forth, this exchange of looks, this distance of physical distance. And you don't want to get too close, but at the same time, you want to be close enough. And you can honestly, this is dependent upon anybody in the world. The amount of distance that you want to be, feet, centimeters, millimeters, fractions of an inch, fractions of a millimeter. I guess they don't have fractions in metric. Damn it. That didn't work. No. But you have this whole idea of, I really kind of want to get close, but at the same time, this might not be the best idea. And you're trying to pick up on these signals. You're trying to pick up, what is being thrown your direction, the physical cues, the language, the physical language that is being sent to you. You're looking at body posturing and, eye movement and sounds and, smells. How sensitive are we to smell? And all you could think of is, I really don't know what to do. I'm 50-50. I could go this way. I could go that way. And then you decide to take the chance, right? You take the plunge. You know what? I'm gonna try and make contact. And across the space, you finally commit. And you're like, here we go. And before you know it, they're gone. And you're left maybe happy, maybe sad, maybe disappointed, maybe embarrassed. Because at any time, this could happen to you. If you stumble across a red fox, you can say what you want. You did not see that one coming. Other than maybe the title, you probably were like, where is he going with this? Yeah, I gotcha. Anyway, we are talking about the red fox from Lego today under their new subcategory, I guess you could say, of forest animals. It is forest animals, red fox. So hopefully we get to see many more in the future. I have no doubt we will. This is a Creator 3-in-1 set, and here are the details on it. 31154 is the set number, has 667 pieces, retails for $50, 50 euros. Pretty nice deal, right? So before we get into the set, we've got to, I want to throw some things out there for you. And I'm not going to make it sound like dating or anything of the sort, which was, I'm sorry, that was a lot of fun for me. I enjoyed that a lot. But some things about foxes, the red fox specifically, if you did not know. Here's a quote for you. It's an Italian proverb. Let every fox take care of his own tail. Huh. Man, you could take that a bunch of different ways. I don't even know what that means. Here's another one. I found another one and I can't remember where it went. To you, I'm nothing more than a fox like 100,000 other foxes. But if you tame me, then we shall need each other. To me, you'll be unique in all the world. To you, I shall be unique in all of your world. Huh. Le Petit Prince. Huh. No idea. Anyway, enough of the deep history stuff. Let's talk about foxes. What do you know about foxes? I don't know a whole lot about foxes. See them sometimes. Red fox is pretty much everywhere. It's found on just about every continent aside from Antarctica and South America, which I find kind of odd, at least by what I'm looking at. So obviously, it's a common thing here in the United States and North America for the most part. So I didn't know this, but did you know foxes build dens? Of course, I think anybody that's taken any kind of general education course knows that foxes dig in dens. They live in dens. I just did a PE game with my kids literally like a week and a half ago of Wolf's Den. We talked about a den. Anyway, so mothers of these things, they can have up to 12 pups in a litter. That's insane. They have excellent hearing, that of which I do not. They can hear low frequency sounds and rodents digging underground. That is really cool. So one of my favorite things, like when National Geographic or something like that, some kind of wildlife documentarian person comes along and, you see the fox, whether it be a snow fox or an Arctic fox or red fox or whatever, and they do they jump up and then they nosedive into the snowbank and stuff. That is so cute. I love it. It's just so kind of funny. But anyway, these things are literally just about everywhere. And of course, they're of like least concern. They're not something that you really have to, I shouldn't say have to worry about, but they're not, it's not something, are we worried about them dying? No, not today. Hopefully you're not out there killing foxes. They do a lot for the environment, but, it's basically everywhere. You've got parts of Asia, you've got Northern Africa, obviously not in the desert. It's not desert fox. You've got North America, different parts of Europe, Canada. I mean, man, North America is part of Canada, obviously. And even in Australia, from what I've been seeing and what I've been reading, which I thought was like, oh, okay. I guess that's a thing. So we've got the red fox. Now that we got the silliness out of the way, which, I honestly, when I started this episode, it was not an intent. I wanted to throw some fox facts at you. Oh, I almost got the whole thing. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let this roll. And it was literally organic. It was not rehearsed as far as the lead in, which I thought was funny. Hopefully you did too. Anyway, so my little buddy here, this red fox, I've got to say, I expected this thing to be bigger as a whole after it was completed being built. I would say as far as height, I was expecting it to maybe be an inch taller, maybe inch and a half, 2 inches taller. I just felt like it was going to be bigger, like it was going to come out bigger. Anyway, the head seems a little tiny for the body, just ever so slightly, not horrible, just seems a little bit tiny, like almost like it's emaciated to a certain degree. I'm a little malnourished. All right. So this thing has a bunch of texturing, greebling, if you want to call it that, texturing all over the place because you were trying to get the identity of the fur and all of that, which works really well. The design team has done a really good job with that. So that aside, let's go ahead and talk about features and then we can talk about all the other stuff. So your head is on a little ball joint. So the head can swivel completely backwards and look almost straight up. It's probably like 85 degrees. It can look straight up, which is kind of cool. And then can come down, and then it's locked into place. Not locked into place, but it is essentially brick blocked. It cannot look down any further than what it does because of this little slope that is here on its chest. Its jaw does open. It opens a full way. I guess if you want to dislocate his lower jaw, you could absolutely do that. It's got some really pretty black eyes that are done here. The ears, they are the anti-studs that you get to see, which is different. I wasn't quite expecting that, but I'm okay with that. More of a concave idea that is going on here. And then you've got some tooth or claw pieces, however you want to label them, that are on the side of the head that have the white fur here. This really dark orange is really nice. I like that color here. It really works well. And then you have another nougat color that kind of pairs with that before you touch the white. The ears are black on the backside, on the top, obviously, but on the inside they are not. They are of a nougat color. Homeboy's chest is all white here, and you've got a bunch of different pieces here, from the newer claws to older teeth type pieces that are in here. You got some slopes, some tiles that are in here. All of that kind of works really well on the chest, gives you that texture, and, kind of solidifies everything, makes it look exactly like it should. Then you get down to the legs. And down here in the legs, you have a clickable joint that goes forward and back. That is at the shoulder joint here. And the legs are very stiff and solid. The only thing that can move down there are the feet, the little paws down here at the bottom. They're on a Mixo's ball joint down here, which is fine. No kind of bend in the leg other than that, which there's not in them anyway. I don't believe. No, maybe there is. Anyway, so obviously there has to be. That would be weird seeing them run. But the idea behind that is it allows you to be able to get a standing pose or posability without having to worry about the weight of this thing kind of collapsing certain joints, whether it be at a knee or something like that. And we'll talk about the quote unquote knee at the back here in a moment. So anyway, moving back, the center body part of this, we have white that goes on the underside of the belly, and then you have your coloring and texturing that goes along down the side and on the back. On the back, it actually feels a little bit more smooth, or looks a little more smooth than I was honestly expecting. Not a big deal though. But again, using that idea of claw pieces and toe pieces and teeth pieces, all of that kind of stuff has been brought out of the inventory to be used here to be able to get the texturing of the fur of the main body and everything like that. So I think that really works well. Then we move back to the hips. Now here's where we get into this kind of weird kind of look / decoration idea, but it's functional in its own way. So the hip joints, the rear hip joints here, when you attach them, that's not a big deal. They're going to stay, that's solid and everything. It's the way that they are rounded. So they are 2 bricks wide from the edge of the body to the exterior part, just of that joint. And it would essentially make a complete 360 degree circle, but obviously they had to attach the legs at some point into this hip area, this hip assembly. But what I found really fascinating is that, the using of different slopes and wedge pieces here has actually really created a really sharp idea of how a hip is done. What am I trying to say? How it's done in Lego. But the downside is you get that and you get all the underneath stuff covered, but then you lack the idea of texturing for fur, if that makes any sense. Like it's almost like somebody had taken the fox and shaved his hips, his back and hips area right there at that joint, and then just kind of like stuck a piece of cardboard over that area and widened it. It looks a little funky. It makes it a little bulky on the back end. It still works. I think it looks fine. It's a little funky. Now the rotation on this, it can only come so far forward before it locks inside. And then on the rear, you can move it. You could high kick it to a certain degree if you move the rest of the leg, which we'll talk about in a second. But again, it becomes locked by its rotation from the click joint and the exterior pieces here that physically keep it from moving. So we do have a knee joint. We've got, I guess it's more than I think our normal joints. So we have the rotation here, but then we also have a click joint that is just underneath the rotation. Then we have another click joint that allows the back part of the leg, the lower part of the leg, to kick forward. And then we have a ball joint for the paws. So ball joint, that's fine. Click joints, I get it. A lot of opportunities to be able to move this thing around. So as I said, when you can kick this thing back, you can kick it back with the paw going way far back because you can move the click joints and the ball joint and stuff like that. You could actually hyperextend it to a certain point where it falls off, which is what I did. I just wanted to see, I didn't mess with it enough to be able to get to that point. But you can kind of do some funky things. Not a whole lot of posability that you can get with this just because of the sheer fact of what you're working with. But I don't have any complaints. You're essentially just trying to get him to stand up. Maybe not so much lay. You can get it to lay, which, again, you move some things around. And that is the nice thing about the joints that are in the front, having just those straight legs, other than having the ball joints in the front for the paws. You get a really nice lay on this thing, as if you're telling him to lay down. Don't play dead. I don't want him playing dead. Then we move to the tail. The tail probably has 150 pieces of its own, is what it felt like. You've got a big click joint here, and it can rotate around. So your tail you can lift it up and down. You can go side to side. You can rotate this thing the whole way around. You could probably hear it clicking in the background. And then we have a big ball joint here as well. That allows you to be able to get this thing into different poses. If you want it, further out to the side, maybe he's flicking his tail, giving all kinds of different signs and behaviors and body language. I didn't want to say specifically body language. I wanted to say physical language. So you weren't like, oh, he's talking about the fox. I was trying to get you. Anyway, so big chunky sections here. That is 2 different sections. And then you have a very white tip of the tail. And, I really like the way that was done. It's just sandwiched together, but it is really sharply done. So that is your little Foxy guy here. And then you also have your little land build here, your secondary build, your whatever you want to call it. It is a little bit of a kind of a, I guess you could say, kind of a boring little thing. All we have is what is supposed to be almost like a hollowed out stump to a certain degree. I guess this is his quote unquote den. There's some fungi growing here, some other stuff. We've got some evergreen plants that are growing here, all brick built, of course, which is not bad. I don't really have that much of an issue with it. I think it's really quite unique in the way that it is done. The bush, because that's essentially what it is, it seems a little small in comparison. The stump probably more so, if they're trying to use this as a den. The den is basically made up of just a bunch of stacked pieces here that are, and then you use some Nexonite shields, and then you have a white base. Nothing really wild and crazy to it. I gotta say, I'm a fan of it. I think it's really sharp in the way that it is done. I personally, out of the 3 of them, the Fox is my favorite build. We'll talk about the other 2 briefly, but the main using all the parts is the Fox. And first one that I built was the owl, which we'll talk about here in a second. And then I did the squirrel, and then I did the fox. But the fox, I mean, that is your focal point as far as the name of the game of the set. That is where we are going to spend most of our time. So as a whole, do I think the fox is worth $50? Yes, I do. I wished it was a few inches taller, maybe an inch taller. The head, now here's where I had mentioned, the head just feels like it's almost a little bit too small. It feels small initially. The issue becomes, if you want the head to be bigger, what has to ultimately happen? Well, ultimately what has to happen is your head is going to get bigger. If your body is not, then somebody's going to say, well, the head is too big. It looks too bulbous for the body. Okay, I agree, because the fox's head is not super huge. It's just super fluffy, right? So the skull is not so much, it's like if you see a guy that has a beard, like a really, really out there beard, and then you see them for whatever reason, they shave it off and you're like, holy crap, you've got a really narrow face. It's a thing. Same thing happens here. And I think with some of the pieces that were used here to give the idea of fluff on the side of the face with the fur, it kind of almost made it feel emaciated to a certain degree. It just really depends on kind of how you look at everything. But I don't really have any qualms about this. I thought it was a really fun set to build. It actually took a little bit longer than I expected. But as a whole, I mean, you get some good posability here. You can get it sitting. You can get it standing. You can get it laying down, which is always a thing that people, are looking for in their builds. So, I mean, why not? I think the design team did a really good job, and it is now my favorite Fox. And it's going to stay built. It's going to sit on my shelf for probably another year, get dusty, and then we'll dust off the Fox and tear him apart and put him somewhere else. So let's talk about the other two. Alrighty. So the squirrel. Now, I've got my notes here because I do not have it in the squirrel form, and I'm not going to go tear it all apart to redo it. However, one of the things that I noted in here, I thought the size, again, was pretty good in comparison to what it should be. When you look at some of the other things, obviously the squirrel is not going to be this big in comparison to a fox at this scale. So the fox that you have finally built is not to scale with the squirrel, or you could say this squirrel is not to scale with a fox. I would not want to be a fox trying to fight this squirrel. Squirrels are nasty in their own right, and they can be terrifying. And anyway, I'm not going to mess with a squirrel that's trying to get a nut. Not going to happen. So the squirrel comes with a brick-built acorn, which is part of the pieces that they use in here in the den, or I shouldn't say in the den, in the stump for the Fox secondary build. You do have posability with this thing. One of the things that I really liked about it was that you had the posability there for the arms to be able to move, to be able to actually grasp the acorn so that you could do that. That really works for me. The posability in the tail, I thought, was another big one. And then obviously the hips in the body, again, not as big as the hips in the homeboy Fox, but definitely something there that is, worth something. You definitely want something else in there to be able to create this idea of, well, this is how it looks and this is what I can do with it. So I'm a fan in the way that was done. The ears on the squirrel and the eyes, because they used the same eye pieces for all three models, which is kind of a standard idea. It's not anything new where you're like, wait, they're breaking ground here. No, it's a standard idea. It's just the way that it was done in this, because a squirrel's head is not going to be as wide as the owl or as the fox. So you have a limited area in which you can do it. And I've got to say, they did a pretty good job, considering instead of the eyes looking out the front, like they do on the fox and the owl, they are looking out the side. So again, that width really matters there in how you connect these pieces. On to the owl. The owl of this thing, I like the secondary build with the little tree that it's perched in, where it's almost got like a little cutout where they use the little 2x2 round tile that has a print of a log on it, a sawed off log on it, almost as if it's a cavity of where its young could be. Or you could just imagine it as just a limb that has been cut off and, now it's just a limb there, the stump of a limb. Regardless, I like the way that was done. So your owl, his head can rotate 360 degrees, which is super important when you're talking about an owl. I like the way that they kept the idea of realism, because if they were to just be like, oh, the head's owl can only go this way and this way a little bit, there were going to be people that completely were upset about it and complain about it. It's going to be a thing. It's always a thing. It doesn't matter what gets made. You heard me complain from time to time. So I don't like this. I don't like that. You're not going to please everybody, but I do greatly appreciate that. And then you get the slight movement here in the wings, which obviously you have to, and then in the tail. So it's nice. I'm a fan of it. I think it goes really well with some of the other Creator 3-in-1s that they've done. When I look back, the Majestic Tiger is one that I think, was a big was a big breaking into Creator 3-in-1. Creator 3-in-1 has been a thing for a while, and they've been getting much better. But the Majestic Tiger was the welcome to Creator 3-in-1, everybody. This is what you can do with it. And it was, it ended up on a lot of people's top 10 lists across the Lego community just because they loved at the price point what you could get and what you could do. And just the sheer look of something like that could be rebuildable into something else, plus the usable parts for anything else. This is why these price points continue to be really, really good. Anyway, so as a whole, I think the model in general, the entire 3 builds, I think the value is there. I will 100% say that the value of the set is in the Fox. The other stuff is nice. There's nothing wrong with that, but 100%, if you're going to sell me something, the main model is what that I've really got to appreciate. If they were to title this the Red Fox and not, or title this, the Red Owl, the Screech Owl, the Barn Owl, I don't know, and the Fox was a better build, well, then you're going to have some explaining to do. Lucy, you've got some explaining to do. Anyway, so as a whole, $50, yeah, I think it's worth it. If you're on the fence about it, I encourage you to, there are plenty of things out there on the internet, I'm sure by now, and I encourage you to go check them out. If this didn't do it, I don't know what does. And if you're staring at a distance and you're picking up on the body language and they're picking up on your body language and they're giving you a look and, come on, if that didn't do it for you, come on, just go get the Fox. Come on, just go get the Fox. Anyway, so that's going to wrap up this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll be back. We've got the Ninjago wave that in between being sick, taking care of the wife, and then getting sick again myself. I got behind on it, but we have that. And we have, we've got a tease. Got something new that is Lego City coming in the future. We've got about a week left before I can share it with you until the embargo breaks. Maybe 2 weeks, I think. So until we meet again, I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it.